Welcome to LTU Perspectives, a journey into the experiences, stories, and adventures at Lawrence Technological University. A student-hosted podcast filled with insights and the intriguing stories that embody the LTU spirit.
Hi, and welcome back to LTU Perspectives. I'm Kristina. I've been a host of an episode. I've been on a couple episodes, so if I look familiar, that's probably from where. Today, I thought it would be a really fun idea to go into the ways that LTU has changed since I've been here. Now, I started back in the fall of 2020, so the way that the school was laid out, the way that we did our classes, the way that we even got our food or lived in our dorm halls is completely different to the way that students experience life here at LTU now. So I thought I would kind of go into the ways that we did live back when COVID-19 was running rampant and there was a lot of shutdowns happening, and the way that the school has slowly come out of that, and we've progressed to where we are today. So let's jump back in time. In the fall of 2020, I was a 18-year-old, just graduated high school. I had one of those drive-through graduations where you ran out of the car real quick, someone handed you a diploma, you took your mask off, someone snapped a photo of you, you put your mask back on, you hopped in the car, and then you waved to your teachers as you drove by. So that was definitely an experience, and I'm sure people who went through that or had family members who went through that or watched your friends go through that, it was a time where you felt very disconnected to the world around you and very isolated. And I think that kind of translated into here at LTU, especially within our dorm communities. However, the ways that the professors and the RAs and other students really tried to still make it a community experience, because that's one of the big bases of the LTU student population is we're very community-based. We are a small school. You're going to know your classmates. You're going to know the people sitting at the table next to you for the most part. So it was very strange to jump into this world where you couldn't exactly connect, but everyone wanted to connect with one another. I remember we were wearing masks all the time, and we had to do testing every time you were exposed to COVID, and you had to do daily screenings. There was literally an app you had to fill out, and you had to show wherever you were walking that, like, yes, I don't have any symptoms of sickness. So that was different. We no longer have those measures in place, and that's amazing. I think it took maybe 2-3 years. So in 2022, I don't believe we need to do those daily screenings anymore. However, if you did feel sick, you filled out that form and someone called and tried to help you out. If you ever got quarantined, I did get quarantined. I did not actually get sick, but at that point, the testing process and what we knew about COVID was a little different. So in 2020, I was exposed to COVID, so I did go into quarantine. But what was really cool is that I was in quarantine. My sister also went to LTU, so they allowed us to quarantine together because we were both exposed. So what ended up happening was my sister and I, at the time, vegetarian, we were very nervous about the food that we were going to be getting in quarantine, the people we were going to be hanging out with, and like the isolation of it all. But honestly, it was not as horrible as I was expecting it to be. 1, because I got to be with my sister. 2, because I actually met a couple of people in the quarantine pods, and we became friends, and we made up these really fun games, and it was a really good place to become imaginative. And you can actually see how that translated into our lives here now in a unquarantined space, no masks. We're all just kind of like running around giving each other hugs. But when you're in a school with a bunch of people who are really creative and imaginative and they like to try new things, sometimes you end up bowling with apples and empty water bottles. So that was actually how we spent a lot of our time, was coming up with weird ways that we could use our water bottles. And it was not super fun to be quarantined, but it was a lot of fun to laugh in those situations. And you find the laughter at LTU almost all the time. Another thing that I always consider my biggest laugh factory is my classes. So right now I feel like once a day, whenever I'm in class, I'm always laughing with my friends, especially in the media comm program. We spend a lot of time with one another. We kind of go through the entire stages of all our years together. So you spend a lot of time getting to know one another. You know what makes each other laugh. You know how to get on a work crew and get work done. So we spend a lot of time laughing. But the classes that we have today are a little different than the classes that we had in 2020. But some things are the same. For example, we had some classes actually in person in 2020. Everyone was required to wear their masks and sit 6 feet apart. There was actually humongous stickers on the seats that was like, you cannot sit here. This is like a 6 feet apart zone. And so everyone was still in their islands. Today, it's not like that. We're all sitting close to each other. I swear sometimes we're like sharing snacks and stealing each other's goldfish. I definitely stole one of my friend's goldfish the other day, so I was hungry. But our classes were in person, but they were also online. And at this point, a lot of our professors did not know how to teach online. They didn't have the resources. They didn't know what they were doing. And because of the whole shift and change, a lot of people had a very bumpy experience when it came to online classes, either asynchronous or via Zoom. And what has changed a lot is the way our professors actually interact with students when you're in online classes. So if you're in an online Zoom class, for example, a lot of the professors now will record the Zoom class and then they'll actually post it later because it is part of the classroom experience. And they have learned how to make breakout rooms where you all get together and work on stuff. They've learned how to create a little bit more of a dynamic classroom aspect through Zoom. So I know some of my classes, if it is on Zoom, we get put in the breakout rooms, and then those breakout rooms, we have a discussion about something, or we're working on a project, and then that breakout room mixes with another breakout room, and you two are kind of discussing, almost like when you're in class and you have a group and you talk to another group of people, and then everyone comes back to the normal class and you all share. So that was a lot of fun. And it continues to be a lot of fun with those classes. And then I will say we have a lot of online asynchronous classes, especially during the summer. And those ones, the professors do a really good job of actually making sure the students learn. So some professors will record themselves speaking as if they're giving a lecture, and then they post that for you to watch on your own time. Or some professors will work with one of our departments, the e-learning department, to actually film themselves not only having a lecture, but some people will write on a board. So if you're doing math problems, they'll be writing on the board, and the result is actually really an interactive class space. We also have discussion boards. If you don't know what those are, someone posts something, and then you respond to it. And I think a lot of our professors are learning ways to actually create engaging discussions on those discussion boards, so it's not just, I agree, the responses back to whatever you say aren't just, I agree, I think that sounds great, and that's the end of the discussion, which isn't a discussion, it's just someone saying something, someone else going, thumbs up. That we're learning to have a little bit more nuanced discussions on an online platform, ask questions, think critically. So I thought that was actually something that's really useful in this day and age when almost, I don't know the exact numbers, but a lot of your jobs will end up being online. A lot of your interactions will be via Zoom or Teams. And I think that is just a great way that LTU is actually interconnecting what life will be like, not just for what your job is specifically, but what your job will entail as in administrative tasks, but one of the administrative tasks you have is to communicate with other people, and that you will be doing via Zoom sometimes or via phone calls, and they're building up this really good foundation for their students. One other thing that I thought has been actually a tremendous turnaround for LTU students is when I came in 2020, we went into the cafeteria and ate food, and when we were going into the cafeteria to get food, we didn't actually eat in the cafeteria. You walked in, you swiped your card, and you would put food into a tray, and then you would leave, and you'd go, honestly, like go reheat it in your room. And that was not the best feeling, and often the food was not as delicious because you then had to bring it out and reheat it, and you couldn't really get soups and things like that. But now when you go into the cafeteria, the workers are excited to see you. They're excited to talk to you. They really want to liven up your experience. And once you get to know them, they actually want to know about you, and you really want to know about their lives, and it becomes a family with, I am really close with actually a couple of our cafeteria workers. I think they're great and amazing, and I would do anything for them. And that's another part of the LTU campus community that wasn't there in 2020, but I think because everyone was so separated, we really came together. Student organizations are now really pushing to have group organization events. So it's not just one group, it's 3 or 4 that all pile together, bring all their members together, and then people are interacting more, people are enjoying more, because it's a big world out there, and so we need to be able to lean on one another to get there. And I think that's something that COVID was able to bring us in a way that we didn't have before. So I think that wraps up what I was going to talk about. Thank you so much for coming to LTU Perspectives. I hope you enjoyed this little chat on where LTU has been and where it's going now. I really hope to see in the future even more of that creativity, even more of the student interactions, more teachers who are going out there and learning what the outside world is like and then bringing it back in and giving it to their students. I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the future, and I'm very excited to see that. So thank you again for joining us on this episode of LTU Perspectives. I do remember when COVID started, it's a trauma that we all went through, quarantining, the world shutting down, not being able to get the normal experiences. It was a big problem for everybody, and it hurt us all mentally, and we all had to learn to come out of it. And I remember especially for students who are in now isolated events, completely separate to the world they had before, especially as a freshman, I felt really, really alone. And one thing that LTU did give us, does provide for students, is clinical counseling. So you can go in and you can talk to a counselor about everything that's going on. And I remember feeling very reassured when I went in to talk to a counselor about everything that was happening to me, how alone I was feeling, and she was able to provide me with ways that I could balance my life, ways that I could reach out, giving me tools, listening to me, reassuring me, telling me that things are going to be okay, things are just crazy now. And LTU really saw how important their clinical counseling program was and how much their students benefited from strong mental health support. So they have started to bring in a lot more student-centered, they've started to bring in a lot more student-centered programs. Like Student Life has really bolstered their things. The other week, they actually had a bunch of flowers where you could create a bouquet for yourself, which is super fun. There are people who are throwing pies for Pi Day. I remember for study, when we get to finals, they often throw a de-stress fest where students get to find ways to de-stress. And I had a blast breaking a bunch of things when they brought in a huge rage room. So that was a lot of fun, and I think that's something that we were not necessarily getting during COVID that we are definitely getting now. We're getting a lot more support and experiences through LTU. We are also getting a lot of lecturers coming in and talking to students, and those people actually want to hear what the students have to say, and they want to talk about everything good that's going on in the world, and they want to help students find those good places and good pockets. We even have a really good library who supports students through not just studying and finding good articles to put into your research papers or finding that book that you've been looking for. They also host a lot of different events throughout the month, like a fiber arts event. Sometimes they'll bring in some socks and you can make sock monkeys you can bring home. The other week they brought in someone who kind of taught yoga and breath work, which was really good. They teach crocheting occasionally, and my most favorite part ever is once a month we get dogs. They come into campus and they're therapy dogs, and they just come in to cuddle you, lick your face, just sit on your lap, hang out. And as someone who grew up in a house with a lot of animals, we had 2 dogs, several guinea pigs, horses. I was always around animals, and coming to college with no animal was a big adjustment. So getting that opportunity to have the dogs in your life again is really, really nice. And I always enjoyed it. And I know a lot of my friends, we all just come down just to cuddle the dogs. And I recommend it to anyone who learns that there's a dog day going on. It's most Fridays. So be sure to watch out for the posters that get posted for that. I think that was just a blast. And, you know, LTU has taken really big strides to take care of their students. They really fight for the students to make sure they're doing well academically. They fight for them when things are not going well for them financially. They try to offer help. They try to give you resources when things are not going well for you personally. Your professors are people that you can reach out to. Your teachers are people who actually care. They want to hear what you're saying. We have small class sizes, so the teachers get to know you and they know who you are and they know who you're trying to be. So they offer support and they offer the resource of guiding you to where you can find the most support. Again, one of the biggest places for support is our counseling, our clinical counseling program. And I think we've added even more counselors. And we have 2 little therapy dogs, Maggie and Willow, who are also great. If you want them in a session, you can bring them into your session with you, which can be a blast. So that is on the best parts of how we've progressed from before to now. I think LTU had to shut down a lot of their programs when COVID hit, and now they're really coming out of that full steam ahead, trying to make the student experience the best experience that they possibly can, and that's through support of your mental health, your academics, and they try to provide opportunities for your physical health through the gyms that we have on campus, and, you know, you get to see all these different student organizations, and they try to support those organizations the best that they can so the students have a place to be social with one